Hi everyone and welcome to NameHero. I'm Ryan, the founder and CEO. Today I want to talk about how to easily and quickly set up a staging area for WHMCS. So if you're familiar with WHMCS, it is the world's most popular web hosting, billing, and automation system. It comes free with all of our reseller accounts except the silver, and most of our resellers use it. I would say 99% of them do. And I'm also been recording some videos on YouTube about how some of our other customers are using WHMCS for their business. So to set up a staging environment, first let's talk about what that necessarily means. So let's say you have your website live, NameHero for an example. And let's say we are using WHMCS at NameHero. Let's say we want to make some changes to the way the NameHero site looks, or maybe we want to upgrade WHMCS or add some new modules, but we don't want to mess up the live site because then we can't get orders and then customers can't pay us and people couldn't access the site and it'd be a big mess. So creating a staging environment basically means you take an exact copy of your site, how it is now, so exactly how you see NameHero, and it duplicates it to another subdomain, subdirectory, or even another domain, and it copies everything, so it's an exact duplicate. And then you go make all your changes, and then once you're finished with your changes, you push them back out live to the site, so that none of your visitors saw what even happened. They just see the updated site, and their whole experience was not interrupted. I think especially with software like WHMCS, one of the big tickets that we see is every time they release an update, a lot of people just go update their live site through their automatic updates, and that's a nice feature, but the problem is if you run into an issue with that. So a lot of times updates will time out for whatever reason. You might have to adjust some PHP settings or adjust your htaccess file or whatnot, but then your site goes offline. So the tickets we get are, people are pretty panicked. My site's down. I tried to update WHMCS. I know I need to keep my software updated, but it broke everything. So creating a staging environment, if it breaks, it's going to break on an area to where no one's going to see. And, so that way, if you do it and you don't have a lot of time to fix it, then there's no big sweat. It's like, okay, I'll get to it later. And also, if you're adding, new modules to WHMCS, it's a very versatile piece of software. You can buy third-party modules, you can code your own, or you can have a custom developer make your own modules. And if you want to change the design, here at NameHero, we always are editing our design and making changes to packages and the way things look and the text. And of course, if we do it to the live site, it could interrupt the user experience. So we always do it on a staging environment and then push it back out to the live site. So at NameHero, this is incredibly easy. So if you're a reseller with us and have WHMCS installed, I'm going to show you exactly how to set up a staging environment in this video, and as well as how to push those changes back out to your live site. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to start here in my client area, because I just want to show where my reseller account is, and I need to get into cPanel. So I'm going to click on Cloud Web Hosting. And my example domain is wsphost.com. So I'm going to click on my gold reseller. Now, if I go over here, I've got my WHMCS admin area up, and then I also have my site up here. And I just want to have these up for, just so you can kind of see I'm working with a kind of a default install, kind of a fresh install. But still, we're going to copy it over to a duplicate location and make some changes and then push it back out live. Okay, so I want to go into cPanel because this is where I'm going to do it. So under Actions, you can log into cPanel, and you can also log in under here. So we have it in two different places. Whoops, I clicked Web Host Manager. Let's go to cPanel. Okay, so I'm inside of cPanel now, and in another video I actually edited the theme, so this probably looks different than your cPanel, but feel free to go through our YouTube channel and watch how to edit or change your cPanel theme if you like this better. But what I want to do is I want to go down to Softaculous, our one-click installer that I show in all my videos installing WHMCS. I want to go back to there because that's where I'm going to set up the staging environment. So it's under Software in this theme, Softaculous Apps Installer. Okay, so under installations, I have WHMCS. So now, here's the thing. If you did not install with Softaculous and you do want to set up a staging area, you still can, but you need to actually import WHMCS from there. So from this main page, if we go down here to WHMCS, we can click it and we can go to import. So, if you moved from another reseller hosting package and you have WHMCS installed, you didn't install it with us at NameHero, you could import your installation from here. You just choose your, if you're using HTTPS and www, you select your domain and what directory it's in, and then click import. And Softaculous is so smart, you'll actually scan through the directory, your home directory, or wherever you put what directory WHMCS is in, and it'll import those details. So then you'll see what I'm showing for this video. So I think that's important to mention too, because sometimes customers will be like, well, I didn't install it with you. Can I not stage it? Well, yes, you can. Okay, so let's go back. I did install it at NameHero, so I'm going to show you now how to stage it. So right here is my site, and you can see WSP host, and I can log to my admin area here. But if I go over here, you're going to see these icons. So right here is the staging. Create staging, clone, backup, edit, and delete or remove. So a clone and staging, so this is a little tricky for some people. A clone actually just takes an exact clone of the site and duplicates it. So it's not meant to stage, it's meant just to take a copy and reduplicate it somewhere else. So this is, helpful if you're wanting to move directories or whatnot and you don't want to, manually move all the files around, you could clone it. But staging actually is meant to have a temporary place to where you have your same installation copied, but then those changes push back out to the live site and then you remove the staging environment. So it's a little bit more than cloning. So what I do is I just click create staging, and now I have a form to fill out, much like the same form if I installed it, where the live install is, and I need to choose where I want the staging copy to be. Where do I want it located? So, one, if I want it HTTPS www, or where do I want it exactly? So I like to use the same as my live site, and if I go over here, you can see I've got my secure certificates and all that. So actually I don't have www, so we'll remove that. And here's my domain. Now, if you have an add-on domain set up in your cPanel, you can choose that. So you could actually have a whole other domain just for testing. I personally like to keep things in one area, but you do have that ability. The next is, what directory do you want it put in? So on our site here, just our main site, you can see when you go to wsphost.com, it brings up WHMCS. So that means that our main install is in the root directory. So obviously, we don't want to install it there because it would try to overwrite it. We don't want that to happen. So by default, it says WHMCS. I like to call it something like dev. Something that visitors aren't going to just type in, because you really don't want visitors going to the staging directory or the staging install, because it's still active and it actually copies the database. So there's no, so people could actually log into it essentially. So just make it something they can't easily find. I think dev's appropriate, staging, version 2 or whatnot. Just don't use any special characters in here. Okay, so I'm going to use dev. Now it says a trusted SSL cert was not found, but that's not true. Sometimes you get that false positive. You can see here I have SSL installed, so I can just ignore this. Data directory. So this has to store data in here to actually create the second install. So this is going to be what directory do you want that data stored in. Now my current install uses WHMCS data, so I just want to call it something different. So just to be safe, and if you're not sure, you can call this whatever, but just to be sure, I add dev to it. Next, what do you want the new database to be called? So again, it's going to copy your live database. So that way, if you make any changes or whatnot, you do have to import it back in, but it's not going to affect your live install. So by default, it just picks a random, name, but I like to import or input dev inside of it, just so I know that that's my dev database and not my live database. So I don't, accidentally, when I go to remove this, I don't remove my live database or whatnot, or, I can just easily distinguish between the two. The cron job, you can just leave this default. You actually don't want the cron to run. So we're going to go check after we do this staging and make sure that that's disabled, because, if you're using the cron job and you have automatic billing on, then it could essentially bill your customers twice, and you don't want that to happen. Trust me, learn from my mistake. That has happened to me before. So you want to make sure that you don't have the cron job set up for the staging. I'm not even sure why they have that in there. Next, you have to have a valid license key for the staging environment. Hang on just 1 second. I'm getting an error. WHM dev. There we go. Now it accepts it. So you have to have a valid license key. So there's a couple ways to go about this. Now, one, for me at NameHero, I purchase a second license for us at NameHero because when I do a staging environment, I want to test everything just like the visitors will see it. So I went out and bought, my own license, and so I essentially have two that I use. One for NameHero's main site and one for the staging environment. Some people might say, well, that's not within my budget to buy a second license. Well, that's fine. WHMCS will actually provide you with a development license, but the only caveat to that is it cannot be on a public facing site. So that means when they assign this license to you, and I'm going to show you how to get it, you have to password protect the directory, or you have to make it so the public facing web cannot see that directory because that's part of their terms. And also when they provide that development license, it has a big notice on it. This is a development license not used for production use, report abuse. So keep that in mind, so you have the option to get a dev license. Now this is assuming you have an active WHMCS license. They won't give you a dev license for a trial or whatnot. You have to have an active license. So let me show you how you go about getting that. I might head over to our client area. So one, if you do want to purchase another one, you can go to manage add-ons and click here to view your order, and you can order one. So don't select the free one because you only get one free one at NameHero. You don't get a second free one. But you could, order an additional WHMCS license here, or you could hit up our sales team, and of course we could generate an invoice for you. And we would provide a discount at it, but again, you only get one free one. So if you do want to get the free dev license, you need to go over to WHMCS support. So that we don't have the capability to give you the dev license. We just give you the complimentary license, and then you can use that to go to WHMCS directly. So let me tell you how to find that URL. In support, if you go to tickets, open ticket, technical support, you'll see we have a link right here called WHMCS support desk. Click that, and this will take you to their help desk. So what you got to do is, I think it's licensing, so we'll make sure. You click licensing, submit a ticket. Let's see if, no, see I asked for a login, wrong. So we'll go back here, support, and just go other. We actually get a lot of tickets on where the login is, and submit a ticket. Okay, so here it is. So what you'd want to do here is fill out your name. And you'd want to write something like this. Hi, I have an active WHMCS license through NameHero. And then you'd want to provide it. So you would go over to your client area and grab your license key, copy it, paste. Okay, so send them something like that. Hi, I have an active WHMCS license through NameHero, and you give them a key, and I'd like to have a development license so I can test. Can you kindly assign one for me? I can't even type. What's up with that? I understand it's not for production use, and the install cannot be public facing. Best regards, Ryan. And then you would just go down here and submit it. The next page is going to ask you to provide your current install details. Please, I feel like, you should provide that to them. It is safe and secure, but it just lets them know so they can go look if they want to, make sure that you're legitimate or whatnot. So I would do that on the next screen, and then you just confirm it, and then they'll get back to you and assign it to you. So that's what they always tell us, because sometimes customers will ask us for it, but that's how you have to get it. So it's a little bit of work, but then again, it's free. But your other option is to buy a separate license. So I understand it's kind of a pain, but I get it. That's a NameHero. We buy 2 licenses for it. So anyways, with that said, you can see I've got 2 in mine already, but I kind of cheated a little bit because I've got an advantage owning NameHero. I just want to make sure I have the correct key though. So let's see, the one ending in E4 is the one I'm using. Whoops. Because you need that to create the staging environment. So E4, okay, so this is my other one. So I'm going to copy this bad boy here. So once you have that key, you can go back to Softaculous, input it in there, and create staging. So now this does the same thing that the installer did, but it's actually taking your current install, duplicating it to another directory, copying the database, copying all the data, and boom. Okay, so now I have an exact replica of my site. So if I click this, you can see I'm in /dev now and not on my main site. So it looks exact same, but I also now have a new admin URL. And so this is my dev admin URL. So if I click it, I've got another login. And you can see I'm getting a license error, and I just need to refresh my license. Let's see, it should accept it. I go into here. I might have used the wrong one, so let's see. Might have grabbed the wrong key. Let's see if it takes this one here. If not, I'll refresh it real quick and pause this video. And got my username here. And paste. Nope, didn't get it. So 1 second, let me pause this video. I'll refresh that license. Okay, I got that refreshed and we're all set. So let me log in. Okay, so now I can see my same, it looks exactly like my current admin URL, but it's on /dev. So my big recommendation here for you is to make sure, if you're in there adding modules or changing stuff up, double, triple check this URL right here. Make sure you're on the dev area before you go making changes, mess something up. You don't want to break your live site. Trust me, I'm talking from experience here. I was in NameHero one day, thought I was in the dev area, but I was on the main site and I started going and making changes, and sure enough, I broke something. So don't let that happen to you. Double, triple check that. So with that said, now if I go make changes, so let's say I wanted to change up my packages. So set up products and services, I've got my basic hosting and 5-page website package. So my live site looks like this. Whoops. And if I go to store, browse all, you can see I've got my web hosting, my WordPress design page. So let's say I just wanted to remove, or let's just not remove, let's rename something, just make it easier. Whoops, logged me out. Let's change the product name. Oops, I was already there. From 5-page to 10-page website. Save changes. So now on my dev site, if I go to store, browse all, you can see it's 10-page website. If I go over to my current site and refresh, it's still a 5-page site. And that's because I made changes on the dev area. So everything I do in the dev stays in the dev. Everything I do in the main site stays in the main site. So this is also perfect for making any design changes or editing or working on the site that I don't want the live audience to see. If I go into my file manager, so let me go back to cPanel. File manager. Google Fiber's been moving a little slow this week, so let's give them a second here while they come up. But while we do that, let's talk about another thing here really quick. So inside of here as well, for me, it's basically design changes, because any changes that you make that affect the database, so basically anything you edit inside of the admin area, you're going to have to push those changes back live. You're going to have to push those back out to the main site. So it's important when you're re-importing to only import stuff that has changed and not overwrite any client data. So if you've had new customers signed up, you don't want to import the customer table. So again, I'll show you how to do that as well. But that's important to note that, when you're merging these changes, you have to make sure to only merge, what you already have done staging wise. Because if you go making changes and you've had customers sign up or edit their package or change their password, then it could create some pretty big issues. So that's kind of a disclaimer here to keep in mind when you're doing that. So let's get back over here and look at the file manager. All right, so now this is just file manager. If I go into my public HTML, you'll see my main WHMCS install lives here, but inside dev is a whole other install. So if I wanted to make template edits, because that's the big thing that I think most people want staging for, You can see 6 is the default template. And so I could go in here and make edits. So the whole WHMCS system is templated, so you can edit, pretty much everything. Like here's the header file here. And let's go down here and look. So I could go in here and just make changes, to add or do anything that, I want to look different. And so like this says, what do you want to do today? The home page, do today. I'm just going to put, hey Ryan. So after I save, I can just go here and refresh it, and you can see, hey Ryan. So now my changes on my dev site are here, and once again, my live site, let's pull it back over here, so side by side. My live site does not show hey Ryan. So again, you can make all these different changes and then publish it back out to the live site. So I think you get the idea, and I could go on and on, playing with changes. But basically, I'm editing the live site without editing the live site, and then I can publish it back. So let's talk about how to do that. So once I'm finished, and the cool thing about a staging environment is you can come and go as you please. If you added something like, oh wait, I gotta go do something. I got kids crying or whatnot, so you can come back to it. You can work at your own pace. You don't have to rush. So once you're finished, you go back into Softaculous, and we go just to the overview. So now you're going to see you have 2 installs, your main and then your dev. But beside your dev, you have this extra icon that says push to live. So I'm going to click it. And, by the way, this is another good idea if you're wanting to upgrade WHMCS. But if you do that, you're going to have to actually swap the database or actually rerun the update script against the database. But it is possible as well. I think mainly the staging environment is for making design changes or to making edits. But if you do, you also can update it. I know I do that here at NameHero as well. We don't update the live site because, the update process takes just a little bit. And in case it breaks something, we make sure it's all good. So what you can do here is when you push to live, if you click just push to live, it takes everything, including the live database. So it says right here, this will replace all the files of your live installation with the ones in the staging installation and will erase the live database and import the database from your staging installation. So only do this if you have not made any changes on the main site. So if you are doing an upgrade and you're doing it late at night and you've disabled the live site for maintenance mode, then you could. But I don't like doing that because, again, if I have active customers, I just need to merge changes. So what you can do is click Customize, and you can select exactly what you want to merge back in. So overwrite files and folders. So this is actually going to take all the folders and overwrite them. So if you've, if you have changes you need to move over, make sure that you have those, in the staging area or you have them somewhere else. I guess one big thing that I would probably recommend is downloading a full cPanel backup before doing this, just to make sure that no changes have occurred. So you can choose to or to not. I'm going to, in mine, push full database. This is not checked because you want to just choose what's changed. And so you can see in mine, it tells you what you've changed in the staging environment. So you can see there are no changes in the structure. So there's no changes in my comparison, so it doesn't matter. I could overwrite the database because it's the exact clone. The changes I made were in that one template file, which are going to be in that when I click overwrite files and folders. And of course, if there is any, these are actually the data that's changed, the table activity log, admin log, because that's from where I logged in. We don't have to worry about pushing that back in. Table configuration. So I did make some configuration changes it detected. It's got some changes from the emails and products and transient data. So there is some changes here that I'm gonna push in. So this is important to look at. You probably wouldn't want to overwrite your activity log because that has your customer stuff in it. Your configuration, that's probably safe as long as you haven't made any changes. But I guess the big point I'm saying is only re-import the stuff that you've changed. Don't go re-importing or overwriting customer data tables, whatnot. Okay, so I'm gonna click push to live, and then it runs and does its thing here. And so now it's taking all the changes I made, and if I put a new theme on it or whatnot, and it would make that live. And you can see it does do a backup as well. Nice. That's nice of them to do that for us, backing up the live installation. And then it copies everything over. So we just sit here and let it run. And boom. So now it's back on the live site. So if I go to the live site and refresh it, I might be cached here. I am. So it might, I've got a hard reload here because I'm cached. I'm not getting the hey Ryan. So that did make it over. It's just not on here right now because I need to flush the cache and need to disable my CDN on here. But that's how it's done. And when you're finished with it, I recommend, checking it out first, making sure everything's good. And once you are finished, I do recommend coming in here and deleting the dev installation. Make sure you're on the dev, and you're going to have it remove all this stuff. So just make sure you have all the right stuff and remove it. Okay, done. It's going to remove all that data, and it's done. And that keeps your installation safe and secure, and you have to make sure no one gets in that should not get into it. Then you just have your one install now. So, I think this is such a time saver. Then back in the old days, before staging environments were set up automated like this, to do this, you'd actually have to copy all your files manually, and you could use File Manager, but still it was a mess. Then you had to copy the database, which you could use PHPMyAdmin, but it's still kind of confusing. This just puts it all in one place and makes it, relatively simple. There is some stuff you have to watch when re-importing, but it is pretty easy. The two things to look out for inside a cPanel, though, are the cron jobs, as I mentioned. I'll type in cron jobs. When you create the staging, you want to make sure that you just still have the live one. You wouldn't want the dev running a cron job as well, because again, if you have customers on automatic billing, it's going to bill them twice because it's got two simultaneous cron jobs running. So I would check that. And also, if you go with the dev license from WHMCS, you need to password protect the directory. So you can do that inside of directory privacy. So if I go to public HTML, it did remove the dev folder, but I would just select whatever folder that is and click password protect it and give it a name, and you can create a user here. And that's how you make it so it's not public facing. That's how you block public access to it by requiring a username and password. So you kind of abide by their terms of service. So this is free and available on all of our reseller accounts. If you installed WHMCS with us, or if you did not, you can still do it. So if you're using WHMCS in general at NameHero, you can do this. And again, I can't say how much of a lifesaver and time saver that it is. And you can also do this for WordPress, Joomla, Drupal, any of your other scripts. You can do this exact same process. It's all kind of the same, even though the scripts are different, but it's the same type of process you have to do. WHMCS is a little bit more complicated because it is a premium application, so you do have to have that license, which is a little bit of the kicker. But it's, in my opinion, it's well worth either having another one on backup or having that dev license, even because it is free. You just have to go about it and request it. Once again, you do request that from WHMCS, not NameHero, because we cannot provide that. So I hope this video helped you out. I'm working on all new training videos on our YouTube channel, so there's a lot of more content coming out. So I just want to suggest that if you're watching this for the first time, make sure you stay subscribed to our YouTube channel, because I don't take down old videos because I still feel they have helpful information. But each year I go through and what needs refilmed, what's updated, and I put that information out. And again, if this video helped you, we certainly do appreciate a thumbs up. If it didn't help you out, you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. I look at the thumbs up and the thumbs down based on what you like, because that tells me I need to focus more on that type of content. If I get like 100 thumbs up on this video, then I know I need to go into even more detail on staging WHMCS. If you put a thumbs down, then I know, well, it's probably not that important to the audience out there that's watching, so I don't need to I can focus my time elsewhere. So I certainly do appreciate that. But thanks for using us and watching here at NameHero.com.